Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this AMA today. Starting to look forward to these because they kind of take me down memory lane to previous deals. Today we're going to be talking about a case study, a homeowner who was denied financing by a bank, and then we were able to help them out for them to be able to move into their home. Um, while we're talking about this, feel free to DM me or put a comment in that says case, and we'll send you the case study. And if any of this resonates with your investment strategy, feel free to reach out to me to have a one-on-one session, and we can talk about how we can work together. So this homeowner, for privacy, we're gonna call him the Mitchell family. The husband was a HVAC contractor, and the wife was a part-time nurse. Their household income was $110,000 a year. They lived in a apartment in Raleigh, and they had kids, and they were kind of busting at the seams of the apartment and wanted to be in a good school district. They had about $15,000 saved up, and wanted to buy a house. So, on paper, though, the problem with banks, as a lot of folks know, is that I get that they have to be this way. They have to be rigid. They have to set standards and not deviate from those standards because of the system that they're in. But their income, because he was a 1099 or self-employed contractor, he needed 2 years of tax returns. The problem with the 2 years of tax returns is that when you buy your equipment and you're first starting out your business, these are all tax write-offs that you'd be crazy not to write off. The problem is if you write them off, you can't count them as income, and it looks like you didn't make any money. And so the banks don't like that. They like to see profit, they like to see income. The great thing about that is that because we're a small organization and we can look at the people and their story, and we can really get into what has put them in this situation, we can see that that's exactly what they bought. We can see that they bought a truck, and we see that they bought tools. And the same thing, their credit was a 580. They had a called a life event, a medical situation, and a medical collection that they just brought down the credit. The When we're looking at tenant buyers, we are not looking at the credit score. We're looking at the story that credit report tells. So we want to see folks who are on their way back up, who they maybe had some missteps or had some life circumstances, but they're on their way back up to a higher credit score and will be able to qualify in the next couple of years for a traditional mortgage. And then behavior wise, they had paid their rent on time for the past 3 years. This was as clean as they get, is a great tenant buyer. When the going back to the banks, like the reason they say no, is they say they want that self-employment history. The self-employment history is one of the biggest things that causes us to work with tenant buyers. Some folks they'll take payments from Venmo and PayPal, and banks don't like to see that kind of stuff. Some folks don't do their books correctly, and some folks write off too much. At the end of the day, what these folks really need is somebody that can sit down, get to know them, get to know their situation, and evaluate the deal as it stands and not as a piece of paper. Evaluate them as tenant buyers and not as just numbers on a spreadsheet. And so banks told them, come back in 24 months. And when we pulled their credit report, that's exactly what our mortgage loan officer said. Or the excuse me, MLO said that they would probably be ready for mortgage in about 24 months. And so we gave them a 36-month lease option. And so what we saw the bank business is that they had cash flow. They had positive cash flow and skin in the game. Excuse me. That weather is keeping me sick. So we bought a home. We signed a lease option agreement with them. They moved in. They had 36 months to work on their credit repair and get things all straightened out and get their tax returns all sorted out. And once they get that done, then they can buy the house. And so here's how the kind of economics work. I've got it broken down here in a little spreadsheet, so I don't miss anything. So this property, we bought it. The purchase price and the rehab altogether were about $140,000. We knew from the time we bought that it was going to be worth about $200,000 retail. We sell that to the tenant buyer at $220,000. It's a 10% premium because we're selling it at tomorrow's price. We're selling it at the price that we think the value is going to be in about 3 years. So we're selling it to them for $220,000. They're putting down a minimum of a 5% down payment. In this case, they did put the minimum down. So it's a $11,000. It's an option fee that they put down on this house. Our cash flow month to month was $700. So we're getting the $11,000 upfront on the option fee, and then we're getting $700 a month. When they finally buy that property from us at the end of the lease period, the lease option period, we're gonna net $60,000 off of that property. And so this is kind of the gift that keeps on giving. We don't have to put much cash into the transaction up front. Then we get a good portion of that cash back with a down payment. We're getting $700 a month in positive cash flow, and then a $60,000 payout. And so the timeline on this, excuse me, the Mitchells, they moved in and paid the $11,000 option fee in month one. They're at 12 months in, we'll have a check-in with them. We'll look at their credit. We'll see how it's going and make sure it's going in the right direction. And then their target exit is within 24 months. Once they get to that point, they'll buy it. We'll do a traditional bank financing they'll purchase the house from us. And then they've got their dream home for the rest of their life, and until their family grows and they need another one. So win-win for us and our investors, as well as the tenant buyer family. So that's kind of the gist of it. It's a pretty typical deal for us, and how they kind of go. Every deal is a little bit different, but most of them follow that same kind of framework. Like I said before, if you'd like to see the case study on that, then comment case or send me a DM. And if you'd like to see how our strategy would fit in with your investment strategy, shoot me a message and we'll schedule time to talk. But let me open up for any questions you guys might have. All right. First one, beyond the general rent-to-own criteria, what unique factors in this family's profile made them a successful candidate for your program? The big thing, like I've said in past AMAs, the big thing I look for is to make sure that they can put down that down payment. I always want to see that the down payment came from their saving up in some way, or that they earned it and not from some sort of windfall, like winning the lottery or something. Not winning the lottery, but a settlement or anything like that. The other factors were the stability of positive cash flow. It's not necessarily about income and 1099s and W-2s and all stuff like that, but the fact that they're not only able to pay their bills each month, but also able to increase their income each month. And you could tell that he was growing his business, and it was really kind of a no-brainer. All right. Got any more questions, or we're going to have a short one today? Here we go. All right. What was the original projected timeline, and what factors allowed them to accelerate that schedule? The original, now they've not purchased the house yet, but the original timeline is 24 months. So the idea is that in 24 months, their credit report is going to be where it needs to be, and they're going to have the 2 years of tax returns, and that's ultimately what we're waiting on. The MLO thinks that their credit score will be where it needs to be by the time they have the 2 years of tax returns. And so that will be not their 2025 tax return, but their 2026 tax return will be their second tax return. So that's the target date, and those are kind of the parameters that we're working with. It's usually either waiting on a tax return or a W-2, or waiting on a credit score. So that's the timeline that we're working on. All right. Can you share the general location, purchase price, and year built for the house they picked? Okay. General location. This one was in Dunn, North Carolina. So I don't have in front of me the exact purchase price, and so this was a purchase in a rehab that we did. So purchase price was probably around like 65, 70 grand. It totaled up to 140. So 65, 70 grand for the purchase price, then another 70, 75 grand for the rehab, totaling 140,000. This was a little bit older manufactured home. I would guess it was built in. It was after whatever year that cutoff is that they won't finance them. They weren't regulated by HUD, so I think that's like 1974 or something like that. But this one I think was built in the 90s, I believe. So it's a little bit older, but definitely new enough to get bank financing with. And these are the things you have to pay attention to when you're buying the house. Just because I'm able to buy a house with cash or hard money doesn't mean that a tenant buyer is going to be able to buy it. So we've got to be careful about what types of properties we're buying. All right. We got any more questions? All right. Well, again, thanks for hopping on and listening to me chat for a little bit. We're taking off next week with the holidays, but I'll be sending out an email about our next AMA. Comment case if you'd like to send you this case study, and shoot me a DM if you'd like to hop on and see how this works with your investment strategy. Thanks for coming.